school that student A is going to get, because student A worked hard at the beginning, so as he goes into his first summer, he's going to have opportunities that student C does, or student B does not have. Still, there's going to be this difference in year 2 where basically he's got a 3.5 average, this student has a 2.5 average. So after the second year, in that second summer, when everybody in law school is competing for positions at firms, and it's very competitive, then student A is going to have a better chance of getting those internships, which is going to build the connections and build the relationships. So I say that because I don't know where everybody is as far as school is concerned, but working hard now can make a big difference as far as the opportunities that you can get at every summer, as well as when you graduate. And grades is not everything. So, you know, we could throw other factors in there, such as student organizations that somebody's involved in. I was involved with the law review, as well as with the moot court program at Charlotte Law. There's a bunch of different organizations that people could be involved in. A number of factors. Who knows what plays into employers' minds as they, you know, kind of think through how to hire somebody, but that is certainly a big piece, I think, of, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question. My brother is actually a 2L at Charlotte Law.
Okay.
So, for the 2Ls, are you saying like it's a lot more competitive for 2Ls, like in the summer coming, in their, like the summer after their 2L?
Right, so basically the students after their 1L year, that's when you start your kind of first summer associate position, and you know, there's a lot of firms now, even smaller and mid-sized firms, that are offering these type of positions because there's so many law students. There's an opportunity to hire law students. We had a student from the Charlotte School of Law that just completed his 1L year over the summer. He was great. It was amazing having him there. But the purpose of this kind of exercise up here, or whatever you want to call it, is that the student A is going to be, even though they have the same outcome at the end of their 3 years in law school, and then maybe, let's say they both pass the bar, they both have B averages, student A has got maybe a much better chance of having developed relationships, because on his 1L and 2L summer, he's got a better chance of winning out against student B for those competitive internships or associate positions. And that's true everywhere. I mean, at the college level, certainly that plays a factor. You know, everybody's kind of worried about the GPA and other things, but certainly working hard at the beginning really pays off. And I don't put that up there to say, you know, slack off, but it's certainly something that plays a factor in an employer's process. Now, having said that, I thought I was doing great. I had great grades in law school, had done about 7 different positions with firms in the Charlotte area, worked for a judge, worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office while I was down there, was on law review, moot court, was on the Student Bar Association, did pro bono work. I thought I had it all. I had this great resume, and I must have sent out 160 applications and got 2 interviews, wasn't called back for either of those 2 interviews. So after I spent all this time in law school, money, spent all the time on the bar, passed the bar, thought I was going to have an easy shot at it, and it didn't work out that way. The way that I got my first job was that my brother, who is now a sophomore in college, he was 14 at the time, my brother, his basketball coach was an attorney. And his basketball coach asked my dad, "I've practiced in your son in law school. I'm kind of looking for an associate." Let him give me a call, and that's how I got my first job, was that connection. So again, you can't overstate the power of the referrals in this market, because there's basically so many people that are applying for jobs with various backgrounds, and having that connection is what puts that person that gets that position in the next level up. I would say that at least 80 to 90% of jobs are given on more of a connection or referral mentality than just kind of picking somebody out of the blue, at least at the higher end of jobs. It may not be true at all levels, but at kind of high position jobs, it's all about connection. So again, it was a lot of frustration. I spent hours doing resumes and hours doing cover letters and hours filling out applications, and it was really disheartening because I kept getting rejection letter after rejection letter. You got to have kind of a big ego to kind of come through all that, but it was rough. It was hard going through all that, and certainly, again, the power of connections can't be overstated, because without that, wouldn't have moved back to Asheville, wouldn't have had my first job. The law firm that I worked at here in Asheville David Payne law offices. Worked with him for a year and learned a lot from David. I owe a lot to David. He's a very, very good attorney, and owe a lot to him from kind of the educational aspect of having worked through cases and seeing, again, pros and cons in his firm as far as what I'd want to do. In 2010, I opened our law offices, which was law offices and me. That was the good old name there. But opened it up, single solo practitioner, no paralegals, and I was able to score a very small closet, basically, in a real estate attorney friend of mine's office, and he basically gave me the space free if I would do a couple of closings for him a month. So started in a little closet, was very excited to be out on my own, but I really had no business opening my own business. The process of going through the various things that I had gone through up to that point had given me very little business perspective. And that is something that, again, having that combination of the liberal arts with the business side of things, that this program is wonderful having that. But I did not have very much perspective on business. It was all kind of self-education on the business side, what you need to do to start a business. Didn't really sit down and talk with too many people. I didn't have a whole lot of information to kind of give me the resources I need to make those decisions on my own. So it kind of became it kind of became a little bit of a process of trying to figure out what I needed to do in order to better my business philosophy, and it took a long time. One thing that I started out doing when I started the practice is a lot of people that get in criminal charges or get into a car accident or that type of thing, you can send advertisement letters to. So that was the only way that I knew how to advertise directly. Clients didn't have any prior clients that would call me back and say, hey, you helped me with this case. Didn't have any client base at that point.
Right. At this point, are you a general practitioner, or do you specialize in the area of law?
When I moved out on my own, so I was just going to do criminal law. So I concentrated only on the criminal side of things. One of the things that I didn't like about some of the practice I've been at was the general practitioner mentality. And the reason for that is there's just too much for any one person to know to try to be a general practitioner anymore.
Was it prosecution or defense?
Defense. Yeah, it was defense. Yeah, I had done an internship with the U.S. Attorney's Office, but throughout my time with David, as well as when I started on my own, it's been on the criminal defense side. And the specialization, I think, is a big part, again, of what I feel like has made our firm special, because instead of trying to just say we're another general practitioner, we can say we have attorneys that specialize in the area of criminal law and concentrate their criminal practice in, let's say, DWI representation. So we have attorneys that are very specific about what it is that they're working on, what types of cases that they're working on. But I wanted to create a different culture for the law office than kind of the typical general practitioner, solo practitioner mentality, a jack of all trades. Wanted to kind of do something a little bit different than that. And one thing that it took me a while to develop, when I left David, part of the reason I left David is I did want to have my own practice, but part of the reason was that I had this thought, I'm doing all this work here. He's paying me a cut of what he's making on my back, and so why can't I do the same thing on my own? And that was a very naive thought process, but it sounded good at the time. I thought I can do this. I can kick this in the butt and really do well. And
that's Gerber's entrepreneurial seizure.
It is.
Right?
Entrepreneurial seizure is what I had. I was kind of fed up with where I was, and the way he expresses is that somebody that basically is what he calls a technician, or somebody that is very good at doing kind of the nitpicky little details on a particular case, So people that work in large firms where there's 500 attorneys, most of these people are doing one very specific little issue as far as the law that they're concentrating on. They're really good technicians, but didn't have the business experience to start my own business, and so I had exactly that, an entrepreneurial seizure where I thought, I'm ready to open my own business, and that was not the case, but good things came from it regardless. But what had to change in my thought process, and what has not changed in many of my colleagues, we have a great bar in Asheville, but one thing that is really problematic with the general practitioner is they believe they're just basically doing the same thing they were doing with another firm, just on their own. They basically have, instead of creating a law firm, they've given themselves what he would say, they've given themselves a job. Basically, I instead of being employed by David Payne, I was employed by myself, and I wasn't able to offer the benefits that David was able to offer. So it didn't turn out to be such a great deal at the beginning. But one thing that had to change was the philosophy that I'm not a lawyer that is kind of practicing on my own. I'm a business person that is selling legal help. That's what I'm doing. I'm a business that sells legal representation. I'm a business that sells law services. And it wasn't until that kind of mentality came that I thought, okay, here's where I've got to spend my time, is really working on the business itself as opposed to really digging into the cases. And it kind of sounds bad at first because you're thinking, well, man, he's kind of shirking the law side of things. But, you know, you think all you have to do in order to go out on your own as an attorney is do a really great job on clients' cases, just really know the law. And that's not the case. There is a lot of attorneys. I'm really close friends with an attorney in Asheville that I worked with for 2 summers, and I still work on some cases with him. He's one of the best attorneys that I've ever met, and he has no business know-how and really has had a terrible time of practice. And he would tell you he'd have been better off staying with another firm that he'd been working with, and now there's just not the opportunity to hire him back. He's older, but he is kind of the person that I kind of look at and say, this person just knows the law front and back. Great attorney, but just does not have the business know-how to be a solo practitioner, to open his own practice. And again, that was the thought process that had to change. I'm no longer, an attorney hiring, myself, employing myself. We're a law firm. It's the business that comes first, and from that, we'll be able to offer great legal representation.
So are you saying like specialization to a certain degree is necessary, but over specialization kind of buries you?
I think it does. I think that it's all. I think it's just a thought process on what you enjoy doing. And let me give an example of that. When I was working on cases with David, what I saw was a person come in the door. Didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge, although I developed that there. Didn't have a whole lot of knowledge, particularly when I first got to David's office, about how that client got into the office. Where did that client come from? He didn't just walk off the street. There's not too many people that just go into a random law office in our company anymore. So saw him come in, sat down and talked with them about their case, started doing all kinds of great legal research about the situation. I would spend hours on things then that I will not spend time on now, because I can just call somebody and say, hey, how do we do this? And they'll give me a form or whatnot that I need. But spend all kinds of prep work looking at the particulars of that person's case. We'd go in the courtroom, would be on the phone with them, would go in the courtroom, talk to the DA, case closed, and then I'd move on to the next case. Well, what I didn't see while I was with David, or didn't see and experience to the full extent, is that David was doing his own cases, but in addition, he was employing seven employees, dealing with all of our employment issues. He was figuring out ways to get the client to come in the door. So how are we going to advertise for the legal services? Malpractice insurance, where is that coming from, and how are we going to have that? So I think it's not only a matter of concentration in a particular area, but what is the viewpoint of the person. My view was this, as far as the case is concerned, and David's was not worried just about the clients, he was worried about the business. And so it's just a matter of kind of where your perspective lies, but it took a long time to basically say,